in the wild world of things to be worried about, this may not register with you, but it's weird. It's weird. Scientology in Chicago. Look, I believe people ought to be able to believe what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how a religion, in quotes, pops up with the word science in the title that says psychology kills. And as Tom Cruise screaming at Matt Lauer on the Today Show. Remember that whole weird episode?
Well, Tom Cruise has done so many weird things that I
That's
can't
true. It's
remember
hard to
every
catalog.
single one of them. Yeah.
Neil Steinberg, famous Scientologist, joins us now from the Chicago Sun-Times. Good morning, Neil.
Hi, Neil.
People. Hey, guys. How you doing?
We're all right. We're all right. Where do you land on this?
Well, the column I wrote, look, I'm torn. Okay, if you look at any religions, they're wacky. I think that's what started the column in yesterday's Sun Times was they were listing the various charges against Scientology, that financial fraud and sex abuse and unpaid child labor, and I'm thinking, well, that's like choir boys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in one sense, yes, they're an scary cult and they do all these terrible things, and it wasn't a blanket defense of them. I just kind of said, look, guys, there's a lot of that going around. And, the problem nowadays, writing something that's sort of in the middle, is everyone's so extreme. So you got people.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah, so, and also a lot of people, they react to the headline. And the headline I wrote was "Give Scientology a Break," which I thought was, the headline's supposed to be the hook, right? You
Yeah.
itself in their cheek and you pull them into the boat. But a lot of people just read the headline and they're done, off to the races. So I would be like, hey,
so you were getting crushed from some of the commenters, but you must have had some people who got it, right?
Well, I write. That's the point. I write for people who get it.
Right.
I write for people who like this sort of thing, and then people who kind of come from far afield. And they've never read anything I've written over the past 40 years, and I kind of like, guys, here, pause, take a breath, and read the whole story that you're reacting to, and maybe you'll feel differently. I look. People are upset because it's next to a college. I have people saying, "Oh, if your kids were in that dorm, you'd be really upset." To have Scientology there trolling for them every day, and I couldn't help it. I'm like, my kid went to NYU. You go to Washington Square Park, and there's everything there. And why don't you actually train your kid to think for himself and not be a sucker for every sham that Look, as I say in the column, all religions are scams to one degree or another, and that's not all bad. I mean, we're in the golden age of fraud, right? People like to be cheated and lied to, and obviously, right? Look at the country.
Well, there's a bunch of stats you bring up that are interesting to me. Scientologists claim there's 10 million Scientologists. There's 7.6 million Jews in the country. Don't you think we would have heard about 10 million Scientologists a little more? So if that's part of their calling card, their credibility isn't helped?
They don't have credit. I mean, look, they put out a picture of the opening ceremony that made it look like the last scene of the Phantom Menace. Okay, it was it was all glitter and the thousands of people packing Clark Street, and then I had a reader who actually had an apartment there who sent me a photo of a couple of hundred people gathered in folding chairs. It was look,
it's a Trump rally.
It was, I have pity for them. They're trying to stand out in this world, and again, it's not a defense of them. I know they're scary, mean people, but the part of the column I liked I liked it all. I wrote it, but there was a line where I talked about the headline was like, Scientology opens new center, and I said the headline should have been something opens up in the loop. That's
good point.
I said it's
good
like
point.
Calling the resurrection, or was it ex-carpenter goes for a walk, right?
Yeah.
To me, animus towards Scientology masked the more interesting part, which was someone was opening something. Which given as you going downtown, it's kind of a ghost town some days, and you're like, oh please, someone open a coffee shop, anything. And then this admittedly offbeat brand of philosophy opens up, and we're all like, oh, look, this is what someone said in 1987 or something. Again, I'm not apologizing for them, but I am a moderate, and I
same here. Be a little more open-minded about it, I think, in the big picture, Jane.
And it's interesting, too, because you said in your article, if it was a Protestant church or we'll go Catholic or Lutheran, it would not be big news. We wouldn't be writing this. Nobody would care. We're like, okay, that's there. How big do we know was the presence of Scientology before this church opened?
There was a church on Lincoln Avenue, which was the sleepiest, most abandoned storefront that ever was. I mean, that's, the cult expert I've talked to said, you go to this place afterward, and I point that out in the column. Anyone can open up. It's the staying in business part that's the trick. And so I'm not expecting this to be a hive of activity. But again, I'm not an expert. That's why I talked to an expert for my column. And, it's funny. I circle back to the reporters who wrote the story, and they're like, "Oh no, you don't want to be on Scientology's radar. They're going to come and get you." and I was like, after the Aldi fans over the summer, I don't think they're going to touch that.
Right. Yeah. In case you missed it, Neil can't ever go into an Aldi's again.
The tragedy of social media is like everything. You're being flamed every second unless you trained yourself to completely ignore it, which thank God I have.
But why all the secrecy? Why all the? I mean, most churches go, "We're pretty great. Come in and check us out.
We want you to be here."
Why all the top secret stuff? And when anything gets out, it's always defensive. They go full Lori Lightfoot on you.
It's based on the ravings of a paranoiac, right? L. Ron Hubbard was a weird guy, and so they're the accolades, the cargo cult of the scary, weird, paranoid person. And so, it's sort of, as we see again in our own American politics, it's from the top down. Whoever you've got up there tends to infect everybody else, and they all wear the same suit and the same tie, and they end up mimicking their great leader. Again, these are people who really want to be slaves to somebody, and who am I to say? It's scary to wake up and go, okay, I'm an independent person. What am I going to do today? It's my own free personal choice in a still free country, which I think is really cool, but not everyone agrees with.
Yeah, you get to decide where your life's going. Shelley Miscavige is David Miscavige's wife. David Miscavige is the guy that has been running Scientology for years. He opened up the center in L.A. 40-plus years ago. This guy is alternatively a very bad guy, or if you are a Scientologist, you believe he is the Pope of Scientology. Shelley was missing for years and years and years, and apparently was found either in 2013 or as recently as last summer, because the rumor was that he had her killed.
Yeah.
But when you close the doors on your religion and you go, you can't look inside, that's where all this stuff can take root.
Well, then again, there is allegedly a lot of criming there, and I am not. I mean, and people responded. If you look on my blog, I don't think I can say the name of it on the radio, but if you look at my blog, there are these enormous blocks of text about exactly what you just said, and I'm not a zealot, and so you can be a zealot Scientologist, but you can also be a zealous anti-Scientologist, and the note I kept wanting to send back to people is, you might be closer to these guys than you think, because you seem to have memorized every bad thing they did over the past 40 years. And I'm not saying it's you, but I'm just saying is, I can't. It seems like a lot of time to be spent thinking about them, and that's the beauty of my job. Is I thought about them for yesterday's column, and now I'm done.
Well, and
now you're done. You're moving
the blog,
on.
I have no problem promoting your blog. You're a friend. Every GD day. I'm not going to say the GD part because, I'm not, I don't want an extra meeting.
I'm not the Delphic Oracle. I wasn't quite thinking. Not only did I call the thing a name you can't actually say on the radio, but also, as my wife says, you don't have to do it every day, and I've written it every day for the past 10 and a half years.
How about that?
Yeah.
That's a lot of words.
Yeah, so I'm not the smartest person in the world either.
Well, but that's part of your cult.
When does Tom Cruise come for a visit?
Tom Cruise could be coming in at any time. He might be here right now.
We'll get him on the show.
Yeah, he could be in the room.
Yeah, that would be fun.
And how do we not know that David Miscavige isn't George Santos? How about
Right,
that?
that's right.
We don't know. We don't know.
Never saw him in the same room, did you?
That's what I'm talking about. Neil, you're the best. Neil Steinberg, the Chicago Sun-Times, and every GD day, the blog. And he's moving on from Scientology. You can too, until they come and get you. Thank you, my friend.